What are we gonna do? We're gonna do knife fight. We are going to do 4 knives fast, budget versus high end. You guys know what time it is. It's time to turn this around, take a look at it from above. But first, y'all gotta listen to a little bit of music. So turn on the volume. We're gonna look at these 4 knives individually. We're gonna look at them each one as knife fight style. Like we're gonna compare the budget EDC versus the high-end EDC. There's benefits to each. Some people like the more budget knives, some people like the more expensive. And I do know that I showed a different Ferrum forged knife in the intro, but I got to thinking about it. That knife honestly doesn't get much pocket time because I can't redo the finish on that. I just have no capability for it. So I decided to bring out the one that I carry the most, honestly. So let's go ahead and we're gonna look at the Sebenza first. Okay, guys, I think pretty much everybody in the knife world knows the Reeve Sebenza. So what you get in this knife, this is an incredible EDC, super reliable, smooth action, comfortable, 0 issues with lockup. The grind on this blade is incredible. It's a nice hollow grind. It comes down, nice and smooth. It comes down, and this thing is never going to fail. It's done in a steel that you can, pretty relatively touch up and sharpen in the field. I take mine to about 1,000 grit and then touch it up on a ceramic rod when it needs it. It is done a little softer than some of the other knives that you get in S35VN, but I'm okay with that because that means that it's not prone to chipping. It's going to be easy to touch up. It's going to be easy to sharpen. Now, is it going to hold its edge as long as some other knives? No. But the nice thing about this knife is the way it's engineered, there's no thought in this. If you have to take this apart and maintenance it, you can take this knife apart and any one of these screws fits any one of these parts. As long as you get the parts that go inside here correctly, like your stop pin, this is your lanyard, or not your lanyard, this is your standoff. You have your lanyard pin that you can remove. But if you were to take this screw and put it in this hole, this screw and put it in this hole, you would have 0 problems. The other nice thing is you don't have to play around with the tension on the pivot. If you take this knife apart and you screw it down all the way tight, it's not gonna matter because that bushing, that pivot bushing is gonna set your pivot tension for you, and it's not going to walk loose, and it's not going to tighten up and lose the action. Is one of the great things about it. The other thing about this knife is anything happens to this knife, I can always send it back to Chris Reeve's Knives for refinishing. I can have it rebladed. If I need parts, I can guarantee I can get parts for it. And they do a great job on their stuff. Now, this is a Sebenza 21. They no longer make this model, so this is a discontinued model, but they have a 31, and I'm sure you can find these on the secondary market. They hold their value really well. The action on this is just ridiculously smooth and hydraulic, and this knife is dirty. Like, this knife has not been cleaned in a while, and it does see a lot of pocket time in use. So the other thing you get is longevity on this knife. It's hollow ground, so as you're sharpening it back, you're not going to have to readdress the angle, reprofile the angle, because it's going to stay nice and thin behind the edge. It's actually going to get thinner for a while as you sharpen it back before you have to worry about reprofiling that. So there you go. There is the first knife, the Chris Reeve's Sebenza. Awesome high-end carry. All right, guys, so the first of our budget offerings that I think is a good EDC, it's never going to compare to the Sebenza. It's never going to knock it out of the park. But this is the CJRB Rhea. And so this is a very well done little budget gentleman's folder. It comes in AR/PM9 steel. You can get the micarta handles. You can upgrade to a titanium pocket clip that I really like. It's done in a very attractive fashion. It's done in a steel that is a relatively good steel. It kind of surprised me out of the box. It's done in AR/PM9. But this is a China-made knife. So you can get a good quality knife for a budget price with this knife. Now, I will say, great things about it. The action on this is amazing. The way it carries is great. It cuts like a champ. Beautiful blade shape. It comes down nice and thin behind the edge. Really utilitarian blade shape, almost like a scalpel. Good shape to it. No hot spots. carries excellently well. You're getting a quality knife that's done by a good company. CJRB, while it is a Chinese company, they're offering very good quality materials and knives. The micarta on it is incredibly well done. You've got this nice polished shadow boxed liners where you can see the liners outside of the micarta. The micarta is nice and smooth, and the nice thing about it is a micarta, and you can clean that up. One of the downsides about this Sebenza is I've anodized this. Anodizing wears off. Micarta gets dirty, you just wash this off. All it would take would be for me to put this in some warm soapy water and wipe it down, and then maybe spray it with some alcohol to get the finger oils off of it to bring this back to its original look. Now, here's what you don't get. Now, if something happens with this knife, I'm pretty much, at this point, I've had it long enough that if I was to call them, they'd be like, well, you know, you've used it this long, and you know, it's just too bad. You got to get a new one. You're not going to get the fit and finish. Like, you're going to get the fit and finish on the outside, but if you were to take this knife apart and look at some of the parts in there, like the lock bar and everything, the finishing's not as good. Your bearings that are in their races, if they're in plastic races, sometimes you'll get some flashing and things like that you're not going to see on a higher end knife. One of the things that this knife does have that I forgot to point out is why I paired it with the Sebenza. It has also got one of the features where you have an option for a removable lanyard post. You can just take that out and you don't have to have that in there, and you don't have to have a lanyard. But you're never going to get close to the quality on this that you will with that Sebenza. Is it a great knife? It's an amazing knife. It spends a lot of time in my pocket, but you're still looking at something that is in its essence a budget gentleman's folder. It looks good, it does the job, but it's never going to last as long, and it's not got the options available to you for longevity that you're going to get in a higher end EDC. So there you go. There was your first of the budget knives, the CJRB Rhea. All right, so the last of the high-end knives is my Ferrum Forge Master Blaster. Now, mine is a extreme version. This was an incredibly well done hand carved knife that is around the $1,000 mark. However, these knives were sold for I think $550 or $600 retail for just the plain Jane versions. Now, the thing you got here, and I'm going to put a picture over here of some of the other versions of this knife that were available, because what you're getting at that price point was you had some customization you could do. You could pick and choose. I want this color blade. I want this color handles. I want all of this. And they had different milling patterns and things like that you could choose from. And so you were able to customize your order. You got an incredible steel. This is a collaboration between Ferrum Forge, Elliot over at Ferrum Forge, and Les George. You got an incredible knife. This thing comes down to a very good Wharncliffe blade. It's done in 20 CV. It holds its edge forever. The comfort level you get on this knife is incredible. In all of them, you've got a bunch of things that you could do on this. The knife comes with a rolling detent that gives you a very deep detent that sits in, but it's not going to slide, and it rolls. It's its own little set bearing. Every piece of this is shouldered to set you can crank a lot like the Sebenza. You can crank all these down as tight as they'll go, put the blade in, and then just tighten this down, and you don't have to worry about over tightening. To an extent, you really don't have to worry about over tightening your pivot and losing your action, because these are all shouldered and they're done in a fashion that they set themselves away and set your gap so that you can't really over tighten your pivot. Things that you could order, customization, like to have things carved, like your back spacers. You could customize these knives and basically pick and choose between colors and things like that, and it just made them something special. I mean, there were so many variations on those knives. They were a true mid-tech that they were offering at like a $600 price point. Action on this is amazing. And the fact is, this comes with a lifetime warranty. As the first owner of the knife, if you purchased the knife as the original owner, if anything went wrong with this, shy of you breaking the tip off the blade, they would do the work. If you lost screws, broke screws, they were really, and still are really good about honoring that warranty. They used high-end materials. They checked and QC'd all their stuff. They did them in a fashion where they weren't hot spotty. They even put their lock bar cutout, the recessed area, the cutout area for the spring for your lock bar, they put it down in here so it wasn't catching on clothing. Everything about it was really well thought out, and they offered you so much for what you were getting. But there was a wait. on those knives. It's the downside. If you ordered one of these knives, there was a wait. Another downside is there are only 100 of these. So there's only 100 of the Master Blasters out there, I believe. Yeah, 100. And so, you know, you got a pretty exclusive item. It's the downside. And the thing is, to get these on the secondary market, they hold their value and you're going to pay a lot for these. So there you go, guys. That's the last of the high-end knives for EDC, the Ferrum Forge Master Blaster. All right, guys, the last of the budget offerings is this Kubey KU311 done by Reeve Sebenza. Now, this is an excellent EDC. It's got really good weight balance. It has an incredibly useful blade. The action on it is amazing. I will tell you that this knife beat all the other knives you already just saw as far as smoothness when I did it. When I did that test, I did what's the smoothest knife in my case, and this won. The action on this is impeccable. There is nothing. You get a really attractive pivot. It's in solid materials. This is G10 and steel liners. You have a removable pocket clip, reversible pocket clip, thumb studs on both sides, ambidextrous, top flipper action. And if you're not into top flippers, it does thumb stud flick. You get like I said, the pivot on these are attractive. The knife is well done. There's no hot spots, there's no rough edges and nothing like that. Now, with that all being said, well, this is a great option for a knife. The fact is, this is done in D2 steel. D2 steel is a lot more, it's a budget steel. It is much more prone to oxidation. This knife is going to rust eventually. As much as I love this, this knife is not going to last as well as this knife, which is much more corrosion resistant, and in fact, I didn't mention it, has a ceramic coating on the blade to protect it even more. So you can't get that you can't get all the bells and whistles, but what you can get is a knife that is incredibly good and functional. And the plus thing is, this knife is not that expensive, guys. It's like 50 bucks. It is easily replaceable. One of the cons with some of these higher end knives is sometimes they're discontinued, or sometimes the availability just isn't there. You get a lot for what you're paying for here, but what you don't get is some of the flash and some of the flash and pop that you get, the eye-catching. Like I said, not an unattractive knife. It is simply just G10 with steel liners. A lot of the pop comes from the design language and that pivot being attractive. But in no way is it going to compare to being able to, like, longevity. There's no way you're going to be able to put this up against some of these other knives and have it last as long. It's just simply in the fact that it's D2 steel, which just is not as good of a steel. It's still a really good steel, but it's still not going to have the longevity of some of those higher end steels. So do I love this knife? Yeah, I love all these knives, but you don't always have, you don't always get a lot for your money. You're getting a lot of knife, but you're not getting some of the more flash and pop. And sometimes I like that over the top. So, buy knives that suit your use purpose and buy knives that suit your personality. So this wasn't a you should buy a high-end knife versus you should buy a budget knife. It was just a little bit of fun. So we had a little bit of a knife fight here in the garage on this Saturday late afternoon. So, all right, guys, that's it. Let's turn this around, do some final thoughts. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That was fun. I just kind of wanted to look at some of my higher end EDC carry knives and some of my more budget stuff and kind of look at the differences between them and just compare them side by side. So I picked 4 fun ones. So guys, I hope you like it. If you like the content, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. But please try to tell me why. I can't change the content if you don't tell me what you don't like. If you want to support the channel, it's as simple: like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, make sure you hit that bell icon, get notifications. And if you do hit the bell icon for notifications, make sure your device is set up for notifications. If you want to support the channel financially, there's a bunch of different ways down in the description. The best way for me is for you guys to get in on a membership. I have a bunch of different benefits based on tier. You can check those out, pick the tier that suits you best, but everyone saves $5 on my sharpening service. And they get access to the Gilded server where we sit and chat and just generally have a good time. Other ways you can do it, I have affiliate links down below. Anything you purchase, I get a little bit of it at checkout. It doesn't cost you anything. I have all kinds of stuff down there. Knives, EDC gear, tools, stones, all kinds of stuff down there below. And the final way is I have a merchandise store on Ember Shirt Co. where you can purchase my merchandise. I have a coupon code that's set up that works anywhere on Ember Shirt Co. And that coupon code is CrazySharp, all one word, capital C, capital S, CrazySharp. saves you 10% at checkout. And if you send me pictures of you wearing my merchandise, I will put them in the videos. Guys, I love you all. Keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And I will see you in the next video. Where'd I put the remote?